What makes a strong leader? There are many characteristics that come to mind, from wisdom to courage to kindness. But personally, I think one of the most necessary qualities for leadership is integrity. The best definition that I've heard of integrity is being the same person no matter who you're around, not changing from one crowd to another. And in the book of Daniel, we see examples of strong leaders and very, very weak leadership. Because Daniel and his friends exhibit immense integrity throughout their lives, being the same person no matter who they're put in front of, but King Nebuchadnezzar shows us the opposite. Now, to set the stage for you, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, have been carried off into exile by King Nebuchadnezzar, who's the king of Babylon. At this time in history, that was the strongest kingdom in the world. Now, Daniel and his three friends, who were renamed to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are appointed to be wise men in the king's court to help give the king guidance and be one of the many people that would do that. Now, there was a dream that the king had, but he didn't know what it meant. So he brings some of his wise men into his court, and he tells them, unless you tell me the dream that I had and then interpret the dream that I had, I'm going to kill you and destroy your home. And the wise men tell the king, I can't do that. That's impossible. I don't even know your dream. How am I supposed to interpret it? So the king gets very upset, and he sends the order to kill all the wise men of Babylon. But when Daniel hears this, he goes to the king, asks for a little bit more time, and then takes his request to the Lord. He prays to God. God reveals to Daniel not only the dream that the king had, but also the meaning of it. And when Daniel goes in front of the king of Babylon, the most powerful man on earth, this is what he says in Daniel chapter 2, verse 27. Then Daniel replied, "There are no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secrets. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. And he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I will tell you your dream and the vision you saw as you lie on your bed." After Daniel reveals the vision to the king, he tells him that it's not me doing this, it's not my wisdom, but it's God's wisdom that's acting through me. And he reveals to the king that one day the Babylonian kingdom will be destroyed by another kingdom, that kingdom will be destroyed by another kingdom, and one day God will bring this all to an end when he establishes his perfect kingdom forever. Now, the king of Babylon reacted to me in a very interesting way. He doesn't get offended by Daniel, by him talking about other gods, because the king of Babylon would have had his own gods. No, instead, he promotes Daniel and then promotes Daniel's three friends to a very high position. And he actually gives honor to Daniel's God, to the God of Israel, to the God that we as Christians worship. But then, if you flip over to the very next chapter, you get a pretty famous story, which is the fiery furnace. So King Nebuchadnezzar made a statue, a massive statue of gold, and he required everyone in his land to bow down to it. But three men refused. These three men were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel's three friends, who had been promoted to a very high place in Babylon. They're brought before the king, and the king gets enraged. And this is where I think the conversation of integrity comes out. Look at the king the chapter before. He's literally worshiping and sacrificing to the God of Israel. But then in the next chapter, in front of all of his people, he's back to doing idol worship. There's no way for him to show that he's the same person throughout, demonstrating to me that he's a truly weak leader. While he might act with manly strength, meaning rage and anger, he doesn't show true strength, which is pushing back towards evil and having self-control. He gets so mad at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that he makes the fiery furnace burn 7 times hotter. It's so hot that when they're thrown into it, the people that throw them in actually die. But what I love about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is they show integrity. As they're being thrown in to the fiery furnace, this is what they say: "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your God or worship the golden statue you have set up. In the face of death, in the face of trial, these three men have true leadership integrity, being the same person, not bowing down to the will of man, but serving the will of God instead. And many of us know this story and how it ends, that God does deliver Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But then at the end of the story, Nebuchadnezzar is back to worshiping God. He's praising God once again. Then Nebuchadnezzar, verse 28, chapter 3, said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defiled the king's command and were willing to die rather than serve and worship any god except their own. Therefore, I make this decree. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be torn into heaps of rubble. There is no God who can rescue like this." But the sad part about Nebuchadnezzar is he doesn't go next and worship God. No, instead, he keeps on sinning and doesn't demonstrate integrity. So my encouragement to you, the one thing that I would like you to take away from this video, is to demonstrate integrity no matter who you're facing. As it says in Galatians, if I am trying to serve man, then I am no longer a servant of God. So true integrity comes from knowing who God is and putting our worth in him. And then, no matter who we get around, we're the same person, because we want to serve God more than we want to serve man. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that it encouraged you to become a person of integrity. If it did, leave a like. It really does help the channel. And I'll see you back here later as we continue to read through scripture together.